Hey guys, John here, and before I get into the Unity tutorials any farther, I wanted to go over C#. Every single tutorial I do where I'm programming is going to be in C#, so I figured this would be a good reference for the people who only use JavaScript or they just aren't very good at programming. Alright, so basically to start, to create a new script in the project view, you can hit create and then C# script, and here you can call it whatever you want, so we'll just call it my script for now. Okay, and double click on it to open it up in Mono Develop. Some people like to use Visual Studio or ReSharper. I usually just stick to Mono Develop. For me, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Visual Studio does have its advantages, but you use whatever you're comfortable with. Alright, so for those of you who have used JavaScript or don't know much about C#, this will look a tad different for you. You'll see these using statements, the declaration of the class, and some default functions. Okay. So any object or any class that is going to be attached to an actual object in your scene needs to inherit from mono behavior, which is what this does right here. This is still a class, but if you want it to actually interact with something, or not interact, be a part of something in the scene that you can drag and drop onto an object, you need to put a colon and make sure it extends from mono behavior. Okay, and that basically just tells you or tells Unity that it's a mono script and it can be used as a component. Alright, so the first thing you'll notice is as well these two functions here. They just kind of throw these in as a default, and basically what the start function is used for is things you want to happen right as soon as the object is instantiated, more or less. So if I wanted to log to say the console, for example, I could go debug.log, and in the log I'll say I just started. And then if you go back into Unity and let's say we dragged it onto the main camera, that's how you can, every time you extend from mono behavior you can do that. I said that like 8 times, I don't know why. But if we hit run, the start function will call, and you see in the console down here, I just started. Okay. And the update frame is basically called once per frame, just like it says. So every single time the game refreshes, it'll call what's happening. So we'll put another log in there. Log updating, and we'll save it, and we'll go back to Unity, let it compile, and now every single frame of the game will get a new log in the console, and you see up here it's making a whole bunch of them. So basically the start function is good for initializing your class, getting things set up, and update is for things you want to do every frame or over time. Basically, yeah, that's it. There's also another function I'm going to show you called awake. And what awake does is pretty much the same thing as start, except it happens before start. So if you need something initialized before other classes are created or the other class's start function happens, like let's say you have 2 classes, and in the start function of one class you're using something from another class that still needs to be initialized. You can put that in the awake function and it'll happen all at once. Or the order of operation is awake, start, and then anything else after that. So every single object in your scene will have its awake function called first, and then it'll have its start function called next. So yeah, it's basically just the order that things happen in. Useful for initializing things, in certain time frames, and yeah. So I just woke up in the awake function, and you'll see in the console. We'll go back up to the top since update is spamming this thing. It says I just woke up first, and then I just started. So you can see the order of the functions. Okay. Now, if you want to create variables in the class, it's basically as simple as saying, we'll just start with a Boolean value, which is just true and false. Go bool, m underscore, or is active. Sure, why not? And that's basically the syntax for creating variables in C#. The same thing goes with string, which is just a number of letters or a word. So, word equals, random letters. And you also have to make sure that after every line, you put a semicolon. You can also store other classes within your class as a variable. So if we go back to Unity and we create a new C# script called my second script. Back in my script, we can reference my second script. So we'll go my second script, Okay. So then you can reference classes and do stuff between each other. So if I had, say my second script had a function, we'll just open that up. And we'll declare our own function. Public void did something. And then we'll put a log in there. Did something. And let's say in the start function, we called did something. Okay, so you can declare functions in other classes and then use them within, anywhere you need to, basically. And so I'm going to comment out the update so it's not spamming. And, oh, true. Okay, so the warning here said that the second script is never assigned to and will always have its default value of null. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new game object. So create empty, drag my second script on there, and I need to make a slight modification to my script. So if I want these variables to show up within the editor for me to edit, all I need to do is put a keyword called public in front of it. And now, in main camera, you'll see an area for my second script. So I can drag it onto the second script, and now this variable in my script will hold a reference to this game object. So now if I hit start, it's going to call did something from my second script. Fancy, eh? So I think that is okay for now. This is the very, very, very basics of C#, like just how to declare a class, how to create variables, and how to call functions. That's basically it. So next I'm going to go over if statements and basically control statements. So if, switch, else if, that kind of stuff. And I'll probably also get into loops. Depending on the length of the tutorial, that might go into a separate video. I want these to be just super quick, super easy. That way, if you guys need a reference, you can just quickly go to a video and find it. All right, so that's it for now, and I'll see you guys next time. Over control statements. So those are if statements, switch statements, that kind of stuff.